Hey everybody, welcome back. Today it's Wednesday, and it's Wednesday all day. You're on the Big Game Hunters, featured on the Magna Search Group.tv network. Today I'm here with the big dog, Jason Berard. My name's Michael Flint, and we're talking about diversity and bias in the workplace and how to avoid that, especially during the recruitment process.
Yeah,
Jason?
I think it's, it's 2016, people, but we're still talking about
Trudeau.
it. Justin Trudeau, shout out. I know you're watching.
Yeah.
It's still a super pressing topic, and across the board, we see a lot of companies that have gender equality issues or even racial equality issues.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of reports in the Silicon Valley and everything like that.
But you also have to factor in people with disabilities or age gaps, within the workforce. There's kind of a gap between established people within a lot of industry verticals and people without the experience coming up the ranks.
Yeah, one thing about the ageism thing that I'll talk about in terms of like the recruitment process in itself. Yeah. I've seen some companies put up on their job posts like looking for someone young. Like, you know what I mean? And that's a huge red flag.
Yeah, it's an HR violation.
That is literally HR violation. HR violation. But it's a huge red flag. But I think, for a company to actually post that, they might want to bring someone on that's a bit more junior in their experience so that they can train them and grow, and maybe they don't have unmoldable habits maybe. Yeah,
but that's true. Companies do look for people that they can mold and grow, and there's some vertical upside.
Yeah.
But and we see that there's a clear differentiation between someone that has 5 and 10 years of experience. That person's missing. There's a lot of individuals in the workforce with experience 5 years or less, and there's a lot of people in the workforce with 15 years or more experience. And part of that, in some of the roles that I've most recently been working on, it's really aligned with the economic downturn in 2008, 2009, where you had all these people graduate, they come into the workforce, and it took them 3 or 4 years to get started, so they don't quite have the level of experience to fill the gap. And that's a little bit where the shortfall is, I'm thinking.
Yeah, and so that was part of the age and the years of experience, and you'll hear a lot of millennials be like, oh, this employer wants 5 years of experience. Yeah, 5 years of experience, but a fresh grad, right? Like they joke about the job requirements and like how millennials are having such a tough time getting into the workforce and all those things. But more than just age, we talked about a lot of the other differentiating factors and why it's so important for a company to be seen or to operate from a diversified standpoint, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, the article that I really resonated with in doing some research for this particular show today was diversity in the work environment promotes acceptance, respect, and teamwork. And I actually resonated really well with that because I do think that collectively, companies are stronger with having people from different walks of life, different life experiences, and sometimes that's just allowing the people within your team environment to be appreciative of what's fantastic and awesome in their own life, because it's through other people's eyes you appreciate your own.
Yeah, and I think the best companies in the world, they thrive off people being different, right? Different people with different lifestyles, different cultures and everything like that, coming together for an organization, different viewpoints, and making something happen for the greater good of the organization and driving that growth forward. The one thing that struck me when I was doing my research was a stat that I read that it was in regards to the gender equality on pay, and only 26% of women hold senior management positions. A mere 4.2% of Fortune 500 companies were run by female CEOs, and 10% of Fortune 500 companies had 0 women on their board. Even the pay gap continues to plague our nation, was what the quote was said in the article. And in 2014, the World Economic Forum placed its global gender gap report that we would not reach gender parity until 2095. And really? In 2015, that was revised to 2133 as an estimate. And for that, to me, that was a big eye-opener, because you hear things about, like, even in Hollywood, that the women actresses get paid less than the men's for starring roles. And you see these things, and you understand now with a stat like that, it's like we are so far behind in being able to keep it at a 50-50 split that really companies have to have that as a standard going forward, that they are going to push for that equality, because it's the hidden factors, right? So it's the hidden factors in terms of why potentially there's a little bit of a pay discrepancy. A lot of people refer to the confidence that men will have when negotiating a job offer.
It's not confidence; it's bullshit. Guys are more likely to.
They are inherently good at bullshit, man. We are inherently good at bullshit.
Listen, if there are 10 key hiring criteria, guys will apply for the job if they have 2 of the 10, and they'll put themselves forward. I can
swing it.
That's right. And we find that when we vet candidates for roles, we find that there's a lot more guys that say I can do it, but they haven't done it. Whereas women, they're more inclined to be honest and truthful, and they'll put their hand up if they have 8 out of the 10 opportunities. And I think we did a show recently with a woman named Margaret Ward, and she's part of a women equality forum up over there in the UK,
Yep.
or actually she was in Ireland, and that was some of the information that she shared with us, based on what really happens in the dynamic of thinking.
Yeah, and then coming back to a recruitment standpoint, I think one of the things that you can almost eliminate from if you're trying to, if you think that could be a potential problem in your organization, you're trying to figure out how you can do things from an HR talent perspective, is eliminate the question from the interview. So rethinking the job interview part of what do you think that you should make, or what are you looking for in terms of compensation. I think if you eliminate that question, it's really important to understand that, but doing it in a way where you can't leave it up to bias to gender or to different cultures. Some people might be a bit more shy, and not even just genders and cultures. It might be their personalities. They might be a bit more shy, whatever it may be. They might have been taught to not ask for what they potentially deserve, but come in a bit lower, things like that, right?
Yeah, well, I'm working with a couple of public utilities, and they do that. And that's one of the reasons that they post salary bandwidth on particular jobs. So it's still negotiable against experience, but they post the bandwidth so that any person, regardless of their background, that is applying for the job, they know what the framework is that they're negotiating against. So there's a little bit more transparency in the recruitment cycle, because it's not. They're not negotiating against themselves because of what they're currently earning today in their current job and what it takes to move them.
Yep.
But this is what the job is worth. This is what we're paying. If you're the right person for the individual with the skills required to be successful in that role, you're negotiating against what's already been pre-established as the parameters by the company.
Yeah, and I think, going back to establishing parameters for an organization is really pushing for a 50-50 split on all different aspects of what you offer in terms of your total package for compensation.
Well, but you're talking male-female split in terms of gender equality.
Yeah, I think so. But I also think, for example, if someone doesn't celebrate a particular holiday, that person should have the holiday that they celebrate off versus the one that your work, welcoming and creating a complete workforce of down the line. So if we can offer this particular party there has to be an offsetting balance to offer this party if they have different views or different parts of that. And I think that what that will do too is allow for people to get ahead at an even pace, if that makes sense.
Well, I know what you're trying to say, and I have working examples of that, because I do know some of my clients here in Vancouver, which is a very diverse city. They celebrate for their employees either the Jewish holidays. They have a big East Indian community within their organization, as well as Asian workers. So they, as an organization, they celebrate the holidays respectively, throughout that cultural diversity within their organization.
And it's even more important about being culturally diverse is that with technology and with the way that the labor market's going, it's going to be even more and more and more important that you can access other talent pools across the board, and welcoming people of all different shapes and sizes and everything like that to come work for your organization. And having that as a stamp, we welcome diversity and we welcome equality in so many different ways, shapes, or forms. We don't just limit it to gender, we don't just limit it to race, we don't just limit it to disability, we won't just limit it to age. If you're willing to come in here and do the work, and you're aligned in terms of your core values with us, and you're driven and you're motivated to work hard and help us build our growth, then we want you. Doesn't matter who you are or where you're from.
And it's those progressive companies, they're investing in diversity training. It's part of the onboarding. It's part of HR. It's basically it's putting the education out there, but maybe in a more subtle way. It's done in a way where you're exposed to it, and it's part of. Again, it's part of your onboarding. You come into our organization, we are a welcoming a group of individuals or people collectively or whatever we might be, and these are the issues that we face in attracting the best talent from all walks of life.
Yeah, so coming back, we wanted to touch base on a show of how important diversity is in having a welcoming organization, because it's the war of talent. We always refer to the war of talent on the Big Game Hunter show because it's here, it's getting worse, and you're going to have such an amazing brand behind you to find the best talent that you need, because it's going to get slimmer and slimmer for who you can potentially bring on board. And I think promoting that diversity is so important, from the board diversity to executive management diversity. All the way through employee diversity, and really turning a blind eye to, even resume setting without names or anything like that is something that's coming up more and more and more and more. I don't think we need to do that necessarily. You just need to welcome every single opportunity that you could have to potentially secure someone, regardless of where they're from, regardless of what gender they are, regardless of how old they are or how young they are. think about it with an open mind, promote that diversity, and just start
Your company's going to be better off for it.
Your company's going to be better off for it. You're going to have
sure.
and you're going to have different people come together for one common goal, and that's how you're going to grow your business. 2016, promote diversity, diversity, diversity. We'll see you next week. It's Wednesday. Magna Search Crew, Big Game Hunters, Jason Berard, Michael Flint. See you next week.